Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome back. It's me, Logan Albright, back with some more book talk. These aren't exactly reviews. I want to talk about some books that I just acquired that I haven't read yet because it's a new year and I have some self-improvement goals. I want to learn some new things. I want to study some more things. And one of the things I want to study more is philosophy. And as part of my day job, I've been talking more about kind of postmodern philosophy and some of the ideas it's led to in the political realm. And so I felt like in order to do that properly, I needed to kind of dive into some of the source material where some of these things are coming from. So I went right back to the beginning to some of the philosophers who kind of influenced postmodern thought and got a bunch of books right after Christmas. So let's talk about them. First of all, I got Madness and Civilization by Michel Foucault. This one's particularly interesting to me because, first of all, it's short, unlike any of the other books I got. And second of all, I have a long-standing interest in the history of the concept of mental illness, and I've read a lot of books on that subject, and this is an interesting kind of treatment of the way that madness has been treated in civilization from about the 1500s to the 1700s. And I haven't got very far into it yet, but I'm excited to read this because I think it will tie in with a lot of my other interest in the things I've been reading. I don't know how much it has to do with postmodernism. It's kind of hard to find a reading list on this, but I know Foucault is one of the philosophers that the postmodernists reference, so I wanted to start here because it sounds interesting to me. Second, another postmodernist that is talked about a lot is Jacques Derrida. And so I got one of his magnum opuses, one of the ones that's recommended most highly, called Of Grammatology. I don't know much about this book. I haven't started reading it yet, but it seems to be kind of a comprehensive critique of literature, of history, of thought in general, and of civilization in general. And so I'm interested to see what he has to say. I don't really know anything about Derrida, but I know that he's very influential. So it should be an interesting book. I'm very interested in language and literature as well, as you guys know. So having something that kind of talks about language in a philosophical context, I'm sure will be interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, next up is a biggie that I've wanted to read for a long time, but have been intimidated by, and I remain intimidated by, but I'm going to keep diving into it, and we'll see what we can do. I got a three-pack here, and they are the major works of Immanuel Kant, the Critique of Pure Reason, the Critique of Judgment, and the Critique of Practical Reason. And as you can see, these are very heavy books and very large. Kant is considered to be a very difficult read, a very impenetrable read. So I'm excited that these books have a lot of annotations and a lot of explanations along with them. I've heard that they're good editions, good translations that are relatively readable as Kant can be. I haven't really started them yet, but I'm a little nervous to start them because this is 700 pages of dense German philosophy of the nature of being and reason and all those sort of things. But it's something I've had on my reading list for a long time. I've always been interested in Kant since I kind of learned a little bit about him in college, and I've never read his source material, so I'm going to dive into that, starting with the Critique of Pure Reason, and then if I can manage to get through it, going on to the others. But I think it'll be fun. Maybe not fun. Fun is not the right word for Kant, but it will be educational, we'll put it that way. Finally, I went away from postmodernism and wanted to dive into some left-wing anarchists because I've read a lot of kind of right-wing anarchist thought, and I'm very interested in that, but I feel like I haven't been exposed to the left-wing varieties of like anarcho-communism, anarcho-socialism, those kind of ideas. And I don't expect to agree with much in there, but I thought I would just read them and see what they have to say, and I'm very interested in kind of approaching anarchy from a different perspective because I think it's a fascinating subject. So I got Emma Goldman's Anarchism and Other Essays. This one I'm really interested in also because it's short, but she was one of the original like anarcho-communists, and I think she was kind of disillusioned in the direction that communism ended up going and becoming much more totalitarian, and she wanted something a lot more free. And she was also an early feminist, and it should be interesting, and I'm excited to read Emma Goldman because I don't know that much about her apart from seeing her in the movie Reds. And then last, but certainly not least, I have Property is Theft, a Pierre-Joseph Proudhon anthology. Proudhon is one of the major anarchist thinkers. I haven't read his stuff before. The term property is theft has always been a turnoff to me because it's obviously nonsense and self-contradictory. The idea of theft presupposes both the idea of property as a concept and the idea that violation of property rights is a bad thing. So I'm expecting to have a lot of disagreements with Proudhon, but this is a lot of his writings, as you can see, a big, thick book, and I am interested to see his perspective on anarchy and how it's different from the more anarcho-capitalist or right-wing anarchy books that I've read in the past. I think it's important to my education to read writers like Proudhon and understand where he's coming from and how his theories have influenced a lot of modern thought. Same with Kant. I feel like his kind of critiques of reason and judgment have really influenced a lot of modern, postmodern thought, and they have implications in the political realm. You know, people tend to think that philosophy is useless and there's no point in reading it, and it's this exercise in futility, it's just navel gazing. But I think these ideas have had real world consequences in the political realm. We saw it a lot in 2020. We've seen it a lot in modern America, of kind of the direction that the country is going being steered by intellectuals and by universities and by trends in thought that started with some of these philosophical texts. So I need to educate myself on some of this. I mentioned in a previous video that I'm also reading Karl Popper's The Open Society and Its Enemies, which I'm finding a little bit dense but extremely interesting work, and I'm enjoying that a lot. So I'm hoping that these books will help kind of open up some new avenues of thought to me and help me understand how the intellectual framework of America has got to where it is today. I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts if you've read any of these books, or if you have other suggestions of books I should read kind of in the postmodern tradition that influenced modern political thought. I'd certainly be interested in hearing comments to that regard. I think it'll be a while before I get to them because these books are very thick and very dense and you can't read them quickly, but I'm going to try. I'm going to go through them. So if anyone has any other suggestions, I'm happy to hear them. And as for that, I'm going to dive into these and start reading them and see what I can get, see what I can learn from these great philosophical thinkers. So with that, I'm going to sign off. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've been Logan Albright, and I hope you have a wonderful new year. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.